Welcome to day 7 of our Dozen Days of December. Today we're going to talk a bit about some presser feet that can be beneficial for kids when they're sewing. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is one that you may or may not have heard of before, but in the sewing market you can purchase something called a Sew Safe presser foot. And essentially what it is it's a foot that has a raised guard on it that keeps your fingers away from the needle. Now, these are fantastic for kids because it just adds that little bit extra safety when they are sewing. But as always, we still want to be supervised because it just reduces the risk instead of completely prevents the risk of fingers getting caught by the needle. You can also purchase finger guards that snap onto your presser foot for certain machines as well. So if this is something that sounds like it would be beneficial for your child sewing or yourself sewing, just take a look on the internet and search Sew Safe presser foot or finger guard sewing foot, and many options will come up for you to choose from. Now, sometimes we're not able to purchase a new foot for our machine. It might be that there isn't one for our specific machine. We might not be able to afford it, or there isn't a store nearby for us to get one. So in the regards that you might want something that keeps your fingers safe from the needle, but you aren't able to get an official one for your machine, I'm going to show you a way to make a DIY one today. Now, what you're going to need is a clear plastic cup. This is just one from a local store that you often buy for different parties and events. So a plastic cup that looks like that. You'll need a pair of scissors, and a marker is handy for this step as well. What you're going to do is you're going to find your machine, and you're going to take your cup and put the open side down on your machine. Then what you want to do is take your marker, and you want to mark where the top of your machine comes down to. So for me, it's about right there. And it doesn't have to be completely accurate, just enough that you have an idea of how tall you want your finger guard to be. Now, my line is on there. I'm going to take my pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut up through the cup to that line. Once I get to that line, I'm then going to cut all the way around the cup. So once I cut it off, I'm going to have two pieces. I'm going to have the piece that was the bottom of the cup. I don't need that. That we can get rid of. The piece that I need is what was the top of the cup, has the slit up and then the cut on around the top. This is now going to be our new finger guard. What you're going to do is you're going to slightly bend it open, and you're going to clip it around your presser foot. With that on your machine, you are able to sew. Being a clear glass, we'll be able to see where we're sewing and where we're moving our fabric to. And then it also has a little bit of lift, so our fabric, whether it's thinner or thicker, will be able to fit underneath. Now, if you are sewing something thicker, with several layers, you will want to cut it lower so that this lifts up a little bit more. But now I'll show you how it works. I just have a piece of scrap fabric here. I'm going to lift my cup up, slide my fabric underneath my presser foot, put my presser foot down, and you can sew. So with it being a very clear cup, we can see what we're doing, and we're able to move our fabric wherever we need it to go. So it's the same as if we're sewing normally, except now with this here, it's preventing my fingers from getting caught by that needle. I'm going to take this off. And while we're close up, I want to show you the other foot that I have on my machine right now. This is called a walking foot. And a walking foot is very handy because it allows your fabrics, if you have multiple layers, to be stitched together very well. It's not going to slip and slide as much as if you're using a regular foot. When you're using a walking foot, the feed dog's on the top and there's feed dogs on the bottom, and they're working together to pull the layers of fabric evenly underneath the presser foot and through the needle, and it can be very helpful for some projects. So if you have the chance to get a walking foot, it is one that we recommend, just making the sewing process a little bit easier. So whether you end up buying a sewing safe presser foot or making your own, this can be a really handy tool to have for brand new sewists or sewists that are just learning about the needle. It can also be helpful for seasoned sewists just to make sure that we keep our fingers safe. The key though, if you're making your own, is making sure it is a clear cup. If you go to use an old applesauce cup or something that might be more translucent than clear and transparent like this, you won't be able to see your work as well. So I highly recommend the crystal clear cups if you're going to make your own. Now, the Sew Safe presser foot, the walking presser foot, those are both fantastic options to have in your presser foot collection. Also, there is some other presser foots that are fun and good for kids to get to try out. And one of our ambassadors is going to show you her favorite presser foot, and that's the free motion quilting foot. Those ones are really fun for kids to be able to draw out their own doodles and make their own shapes and pictures using a presser foot. So it's kind of a good way to just get kids working with the machine and feeling what it's like to sew without the restriction of following a straight line. So let's take a look at that and some other videos of our ambassadors using some presser foots. And that's all I have for you today.
I'd like to show you free motion stitching. So here's what the foot looks like. It's different than other foots. So what you do is you start stitching, and you see it doesn't just go forwards. It stays in one spot, so you have to turn, 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 turn. And you have to kind of guide the fabric around as you go. I'm making a spiral in this case. Just turn, 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 turn. Turn, turn.
So the free motion foot has a little part that rests on top of the needle bar, and that's what lifts the foot every time. Every time the needle goes up, the foot goes up too.
Okay, and that looks like spirally. So you can make whatever shape you want.
I'm going to show you some favorite things on my sewing machine. So this is a presser foot to keep my fingers safe from the needle. And when it's broken, we can put another one on.
Yeah,
And
you can fix
this-
needles, yeah.
And
That for your seam allowance?
this is a seam allowance
Magnet.
magnet. So we can put it on the size that we need.
Slowly and stop and pivot. Yeah.
Now, can you see? We're sewing it together. Now we're gonna sew.
Put your foot down.
Oh, what did I forget?
There we go.